Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review of Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 6, Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken. This review is free of spoilers from the books and all other spoilers, provided that you have seen up to Episode 6 of Season 5. So we start the episode off in Braavos, where Arya has apparently been sweeping floors and cleaning off dead bodies for weeks. Remember, she hasn't appeared in the last two episodes, so it's been a little while since we've seen her, and apparently it would have been really boring if we had, since she's been cleaning this whole time. Anyway, Arya tries to go through the door where they take the dead bodies, but the waif stops her, claiming she's not ready. Arya asks to play the game of faces again, and so the waif tells Arya's story of how she grew up in Westeros as a part of a noble family whose stepmother tried to kill her, but she managed to kill her instead. She smiles, and Arya smiles back at her, feeling kinship with her. The waif's smile then instantly disappears, and then she asks Arya if it was a lie or not. So this is a really cool scene, revealing that basically the waif has just been telling Arya what she wanted to hear in order to get Arya to let her guard down, which taught Arya a couple of things. To be a faceless man, you must become someone else in order to convince other people you are that person, and also that faceless men needs to know how to manipulate people to get them to let their guard down. The moment she instantly dropped that smile, I just thought that was so awesome. Anyway, what the waif does here by telling a story mixed with the truth and lies and leaving the other person to figure out which is which is the theme of this episode, and we'll see this motif repeated throughout all the different storylines of this episode. Next, Jaqen H'ghar comes to Arya while she's sleeping and asks who she is. Arya, instead of saying no one, tells him she's Arya Stark and begins to tell him her backstory, much in the same way the waif did to her earlier. However, whenever Arya lies, Jaqen smacks her and points out it's a lie. So apparently, Jaqen could tell whenever she lied. For instance, when she said her father died in battle, when really he was executed, and when she said that she stabbed a stable boy in the back when really it was the gut, and when she said she lived with an outlaw named Pulver when really it was the Hound. What's really interesting is that when Arya told the story about how she left the Hound for dead, she said she hated him and wanted him to die, and Jaqen smacked her. She repeated it several times, insisting it wasn't a lie, but then Jaqen kept smacking her, eventually told her that she was lying to herself. Now, I find this very interesting. As those familiar with my channel know, I was not happy with the scene in last year's finale where Arya left the Hound for dead. Although it made sense in the books, I felt in the show it didn't make any sense because Arya grew close to the Hound and formed some sort of bond with him to the point where he told Brienne he was just looking out for Arya. So it doesn't make much sense to me that she'd just leave him for dead like that. But this scene, Jaqen points out that she was lying to herself and she actually did care for him, which was very interesting and goes a little ways to me thinking more highly about that scene. A little ways, but not completely. However, this is more relevant to the immediate future in so much it tells us that Jaqen knows when Arya is lying better than Arya does herself. Jaqen then asks her if she wants to become no one, and with conviction she screams yes, and Jaqen hits her really hard this time, drawing blood. So this must mean Jaqen can tell she isn't ready to give up her identity, and she still holds on to things that make her, like the love for her family and her lust for revenge. So next we go to Tyrion and Jorah walking on foot towards Meereen. They start to form a bond a bit more. Tyrion finds out Jorah had no idea about how, he was on the run and for killing his father. So he told him about it. It just goes to show how Jorah wasn't really thinking things through. Frankly, I'm surprised Jorah didn't know about it from Cersei putting the ward out trying to, find Tyrion. I guess Jorah mostly kept to himself when he was in Volantis. And what I found interesting here is that Jorah asks why Tyrion killed his father. He says he wanted to execute me for a crime I didn't commit, and he was fucking the woman I loved. And the reason I find this really interesting is that many people who read the books first were unhappy that a particular motivation as to why Tyrion killed his father was left out of the show. Some going as far to say it didn't make any sense in the show why Tyrion would kill his father, but I always maintained it made perfect sense in the show, which is really demonstrated here. Why did you kill your father? Well, he tried to execute me for a crime I didn't commit, and he was fucking the woman I love. An absolutely perfect explanation for anyone. I'm sure anyone who hasn't read the books wouldn't even know anything's missing, and they would think it's a perfectly good explanation, because it is. I liked how we got that reminder of that. So then Tyrion tells Jorah about his father, whom Jorah didn't know had died. Jorah doesn't really know much of anything, does he? I know he got some news about Westeros while he was in Essos with Dany. He knew about Robert and Joffrey's deaths, and Tommen was now king. But I suppose it makes sense that he wouldn't know that his father died, because it might be too much of a minor news to reach him all the way in Essos. But overall, I felt this was a really great scene. I haven't been too overly impressed with the Tyrion and Jorah stuff thus far, but it was really great to finally see them bonding, so I really love this scene. Next we go back to Braavos, to where a man brings his dying daughter into the House of the Black and White, basically to be euthanized. As you may have noticed, last time we saw the House of Black and White, when a man just drank the water and then he died. So I guess the water in the fountain is poisoned. So Arya goes to the girl and tells her a story about how she was in a similar situation and dying, and the water healed her and told the girl to drink. And then next we see Arya cleaning the dead girl's body. So we know it killed her. This was a very touching scene in a sad way, but basically Arya did the same thing the waif did to her earlier, got her to drop her guard and connect with her by telling her a story that wasn't entirely true. But of course, in this context, it was a bit more emotional, as Arya was basically comforting a dying girl right before she passed. At any rate, this proved to Jaqen that Arya was ready for the next step. So he takes her through the door and into a room with a whole lot of faces. So basically, these are the faces that the faceless men use to change their face. They take the faces from those dead people and store them to use later so they can appear as other people. So basically, when a faceless man changes his or her face, they're literally wearing another person's face, like a mask. Jaqen then tells her she's not ready to become no one, but she is ready to become someone else. So I take this to mean she's not quite ready to become a faceless man, but that he has another assignment for her in mind. So next we go back to Tyrion and Jorah, where Jorah explains to Tyrion why he's so devoted to Daenerys by telling him the story of, how the dragons were born. Tyrion seems unconvinced. Then they freak out when they see a slaver ship anchored nearby. They hide behind a rock, but that does them no good as the slavers sneak up on them from behind and capture them. They then say they're going to use Jorah as a slave on boats, but that Tyrion is useless, and so the head slaver orders his men to kill him. What's interesting here is that this is kind of the opposite of the scene in Season 1 when Tyrion is traveling through the Vale with Bronn, when they're ambushed by a group of Hills tribesmen, and they say they'll save Tyrion to entertain the children, but ordered the men to kill Bronn. But this time, it's the other way around. Tyrion's the one to be killed. But apparently a dwarf's cock is worth a lot of money, so Tyrion convinces them to keep him alive so the merchant can verify that the cock belongs to a dwarf. And then when they learn the slavers mean to take them back to Volantis, they convince the slavers that Jorah is a renowned fighter and would be worth more money if they took them to Meereen so he could fight in the fighting pits. So the lead slaver is played by, I can't really pronounce his name, but he played Mr. Echo on Lost and Adebisi on Oz, and appeared in several movies, including Pompeii, where he appeared with Kit Harington. He's a really good actor. I heard he was going to be on the show this season, but I was expecting a slightly bigger role for him. But I guess, we'll see. Maybe we'll see more of him. So when Tyrion first tries to convince them Jorah is an excellent fighter, he tells them a lie that he defeated Jaime Lannister in the tournament. But then Jorah finally convinces them by telling them the truth that he killed the Dothraki Blood Rider in single combat. However, it's not the whole truth, because the reason Jorah won that fight is because he had armor on, which the Dothraki were unfamiliar with, and fighters in the fighting pits don't typically use armor. So this scene was very similar to the Arya scene we just watched, where Jorah and Tyrion tell a story to get what they want, and they have to find the right blend of truth and lies in order to accomplish that. But the ultimate goal for them here was obviously to get to Meereen and not back to Volantis. And then, they'll try to figure something out, some other way to get out of it. Don't worry, I'm sure Tyrion will find some way to get out before the slavers cut off his most prized possession. Another quick note, though, is Daenerys specifically specified that only free men could fight in the fighting pits. But these slavers apparently didn't believe that, so we'll just have to see how that all plays out. So the next scene we get is another example of a scene where people try to win each other over by using a blend of lies and truth when Littlefinger arrives in King's Landing and meets with Cersei. Cersei insists that she had nothing to do with Loras' arrest, but Littlefinger sees right through that. And then Littlefinger insists that he loved Lysa Arryn, but then Cersei sees right through that. But Cersei asks Littlefinger, if war comes to Westeros, will the Knights of the Vale fight for the crown? So we know that Cersei sent for Littlefinger to come all the way down to King's Landing urgently, and the only thing she does is ask him if the Knights of the Vale will fight for the crown. I don't think the timing is a coincidence, as at the same time she has plans in motion that will likely threaten her alliance with the Tyrells, which are supporting the Lannisters and helping them to stay in power. So it seems to me she's looking to have the Vale take their place so she can disregard the Tyrells. But then Littlefinger has his own power play in mind, apparently, as he tells Cersei about how Roose Bolton is marrying his son to Sansa Stark. He left out the part about, the whole marriage being his idea, of course, and Cersei, of course, is outraged and vows to destroy the Boltons for their treachery. Littlefinger offers an alternative plan, though. Let the Boltons and Stannis fight it out, and then come by and take Winterfell from whoever wins the battle, who will obviously be weakened from the fight. Littlefinger suggests he send her Uncle Kevin or her brother Jaime to do this, but I think he knew full well she would send neither of them, and he was just playing her and was like, oh, well, I'll help you out, I'll do it. As long as Cersei made Littlefinger Warden of the North. So Littlefinger is the Lord of Harrenhal. Although not the Warden of the Riverlands like he is in the books, the show has made it clear that Walder Frey is the Warden of the Riverlands in the show, but he is the acting Warden of the Vale and the Lord of the Eyrie until Robin comes of age. And now he wants to be Warden of the North as well. So, he's quite ambitious. But here's the real trick about the theme in this episode about telling the difference between truth and lies. Because this time the show is doing it to us, the audience, and leaving us to try to figure out what is true and what isn't about what Littlefinger is saying. Because Littlefinger has told many different people many different stories, or many different plans that he has. He told the Lords of the Vale that he wanted them to fight the Lannisters for the crown and back Robin Arryn. He told Roose Bolton that he wanted the North under the Boltons to join forces with the Vale and take the crown. He told Sansa he wanted Stannis to take Winterfell so he'd make her Wardeness of the North, and now he's telling Cersei he wants the Vale to conquer the North in the Lannisters' name, and if she makes him Warden of the North, and Cersei agrees, giving that Littlefinger will kill Sansa. So Littlefinger is definitely playing a game here, but I wouldn't be so quick to take what he says to Cersei here at face value. We know from prior episodes Littlefinger is a master schemer, and he's responsible for a series of events that set the whole show in motion by convincing Lysa to kill her husband, who was Hand of the King at the time. We also know that Cersei severely underestimates Littlefinger, thinking of him as nothing but a sleazy brothel owner, but as audience members we know what a critical mistake that is. So I don't believe for a second that what he told Cersei is his real endgame. What is his real endgame? I have no idea. But I would say it isn't any one thing he told any of these other people. Because I think with the theme of the episode, there's nuggets of truth and lies to all the story he's told all these people. And it's impossible at this point to know what he's really up to. But we do know that Littlefinger likes to use chaos in order to promote himself, so it's a pretty sure thing that whatever his plans are will cause a lot of havoc and chaos. I also want to make it clear to those of you who haven't read the books that I and others who have read the books don't know what Littlefinger's plans are either. Like, I'm not just holding back so to not reveal spoilers. I truly don't know. In fact, I have no idea. A lot of stuff he's doing are massive changes from the books, and in the books he hasn't come close to enacting his master plan, so this is entirely territory that the books have yet to cover. I did say I thought Littlefinger cared for Sansa, but here he promises to kill her and would appear to have betrayed her by telling Cersei about her whereabouts. I'm not ruling it out that he doesn't care about her, but I wouldn't be too quick to jump to that conclusion. As I said, I wouldn't take anything he said to Cersei at face value, but what I think is obvious is that Sansa is a piece in his master plan, whatever that may be. So next we go down to Dorne, where Trystane and Myrcella are being all romantic, and Trystane is talking about, how he's going to talk to his father about having the wedding soon, and then he assures her he wants to marry her because he loves her, not because their parents arranged it. Then we see Jaime and Bronn, who want to take Myrcella back to King's Landing, approaching their position, but at the same time, the Sand Snakes, who want to kill Myrcella to start a war, are also approaching their position. So these groups are converging on this one location. Jaime and Bronn get there first, and Trystane starts to notice something's wrong. Bronn tells him not to do anything stupid, but he tries to draw his sword, which Bronn considers stupid, so he knocks him out. But then the Sand Snakes converge on him and a massive fight breaks out. I was really worried about Jaime here because he didn't fare that well against some random soldier, and now he's up against one of the Sand Snakes, who are much better fighters. One of the Sand Snakes, Nymeria I think, breaks away and tries to take Myrcella away, but then Arya, who is the personal household guard of Prince Doran, leader of Dorne, comes in with a whole bunch of soldiers and stops the fighting and seizes all of them, thus thwarting both Jaime and the Sand Snakes' plans. Now, what worries me here is that there's been a lot of speculation about Bronn's demise this season, and if you'll notice, Tyene managed to cut Bronn with one of her daggers, and we know that Oberyn was renowned for using poisons on his weapons, so the same might be true for his daughter. So I'm a bit worried that Bronn got a dose of poison with that cut, but we'll see. So next we see Lady Olenna arrive in King's Landing, and she's not at all happy about what they did to Loras, and storms in to see Cersei, demanding something be done. Cersei plays the whole, "Oh, I'm not the one who imprisoned Loras, it was the Faith Militant" routine that she did with Tommen, but of course Lady Olenna is not Tommen, she's not buying it at all, calls Cersei out on her bullshit, and reminds her how important the Tyrells' support of the crown is to the Lannisters. I love how Cersei says Lady Olenna is making veiled threats, and Lady Olenna is like, "What veil?" I was just like, damn, she means business. But Cersei assures her that the Faith Militant are holding a meeting to determine Loras' innocence, and he'll probably be released then. Lady Olenna doesn't quite buy it, but she leaves for the time being. This scene is another example of Cersei trying to appease someone with lying, but of course Olenna doesn't buy it, but she still doesn't know exactly what she's up to. So next we get the little hearing the High Sparrow puts on where he grills Loras about the true nature of his relationship with Renly. Loras, of course, denies everything. The High Sparrow then makes Margaery take the stand and asks her if she knows anything about Loras being a homosexual, to which she denies it. And then the High Sparrow brings in Oliver, the brothel runner who we saw earlier this season in bed with Loras when Margaery entered the room. He testifies that he's had intimate relations with Loras and that Margaery was well aware of it. So the High Sparrow then arrests Loras for these acts and also arrests Margaery for lying under oath. So Margaery was unsuccessful of convincing others with her lies. So yeah, I strongly believe this was Cersei's plan all along. Her plan wasn't just to get Loras, that was just a means to an end. Her ultimate plan was to arrest Margaery. So I'm sure she's the one that told the High Sparrow, what to do by putting Margaery on the stand when Cersei knew she'd lie. And I'm sure Cersei helped the High Sparrow arrange for Oliver's testimony as well. This definitely was not a coincidence. I'm sure Cersei planned this out from the beginning. I'm sure right about now she's feeling really proud of herself and thinks she's pulled off this really awesome plan. But we'll see how it turns out for her, though, because Lady Olenna is pissed, and I'm sure she's, going to strike back. And plus, Cersei has entrusted part of her plan to Littlefinger, whom she sorely underestimates, so there's a time bomb just waiting to go off. So next we go up to Winterfell, where Ramsay's crazy girlfriend Miranda comes in and offers to bathe Sansa for the wedding. And as she's bathing her, she tells her all these stories about how Ramsay tortured women who bored him, and also is explaining how many other women he had sex with. So basically she's trying to play her and intimidate her, but Sansa sees right through it and can tell that she's Ramsay's girlfriend and that she's just jealous and that she's trying to scare her. And more than that, Sansa intimidates her right back by playing with her mind, making her seem insignificant, and then sends her away. And that was awesome. This is the Dark Sansa I've been waiting to see. The person who's learned from Cersei and Littlefinger and how best to mess with people's minds to get what she wants. That crazy little twerp was no match for her, and it was so awesome to see. That's something I didn't like about last week's episode on how Ramsay and Miranda so easily messed with Sansa, but this week she showed who's really in charge. So next, Theon Reek comes to escort Sansa to her wedding. He says he's ordered to take her by the hand, but Sansa refuses. Theon begs her, saying that they'll hurt him if she doesn't, but she replies that she doesn't care. Damn. That's dark, but not unjustified. So then we get a lovely ceremony where Sansa gets married to Ramsay and puts on a front for all the people there. But after that, we see Sansa and Ramsay on their wedding night, where Ramsay does successfully intimidate Sansa by warning her not to lie to him. He then orders Reek to stay in the room and watch Sansa become a woman, and then proceeds to rape her while she cries and Reek watches. Now this is a really dark and disturbing scene, made even more disturbing by the fact that we've known Sansa since, she was on the show back when she was like a 14-year-old girl. So to see this scene was really brutal for audience members. But, believe it or not, this scene was actually worse in the book. So I was, thankful that the scene wasn't as bad as it could have been. Of course, in the books, it wasn't Sansa Ramsay married, but a minor character who isn't on the show that was pretending to be Arya. So it has a greater impact on the audience being a character that they care about much more. But again, at least it wasn't as bad as it was in the books. I know a lot of book readers like to complain about the show having unnecessary nudity, sex, rape scenes, whatever, but this was a case where they actually doled it down compared to the books, but still a very disturbing scene and hard to watch, probably one of the most disturbing the show has had yet. So my rating for Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken is a 10, the best, meaning it's my favorite of the season thus thus far. I went back and forth of whether or not I should give this episode a 9 or a 10, but reviewing it, I realized the recurring themes of trying to disarm people with a mix of truth and lies, and seeing people have varying degrees of success was awesome. Although this episode is basically a setup episode, setting up Jorah and Tyrion getting to Slaver's Bay, Littlefinger's master plan, Arya's next step in becoming a faceless man, and what is to become of Jaime and the Sand Snakes, but it was done so well, and had a lot of great scenes. It was so awesome to see the return of Lady Olenna, seeing her no-nonsense approach, which will certainly continue. The scene with Arya Mercy killing the little girl was tragic and touching. Seeing Tyrion and Jorah talk themselves into going to Meereen, and of course, and also seeing Jorah and Tyrion bond was really great to finally see that. And of course, seeing Sansa totally play Miranda and show that bitch whose boss was absolutely awesome. Although I'm sure some may complain about the Sand Snakes like they did last time. I thought they were fine. I don't really know why people are complaining about them, but maybe it's not the greatest, but I didn't have any problem with their fight scene. I thought it was actually really great the way they built tension by having these three groups converge on Myrcella at the same time. And the last scene may have been really disturbing and difficult to watch, but it certainly added to the darkness and tension of the season. I have no doubt Sansa will eventually get the better of Ramsay. So that's it for my review of Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken. If you have read the books, you should check out my discussion video I'll be doing later this week with Abkin Tomko over on his channel. And we have added a Q&A section to our videos, so if there's any questions you'd like to ask us or like to have us answered or discuss in our videos, just leave a comment on this video and begin the comment with Q&A so I know you want it discussed in our video. All such comments won't appear in the comments section of this video and will be saved for our discussion video. So make sure you subscribe to keep up with all that, and thanks a lot for watching.